Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion here. We are a little under a month away from the 2022 NRL season, so I figure it's finally time I get my ladder predictions out there. I'm going to go from 16th to 1st and give a little reason as to why I'm putting each team where. Of course, we're not necessarily going to be seeing eye to eye with every single ladder prediction here, so I want you guys to comment your 2022 NRL ladder prediction below, or if you don't want to put out the full thing, then just leave your top 8 below. I'm definitely interested to see what you guys have to say and your differing opinions from mine. But without any further ado, let's get into it. These are my 2022 NRL ladder predictions. Okay, so winning the dreaded wooden spoon, I have the North Queensland Cowboys. This team has been a bottom 4 side since making the grand final from 8th in 2017. There's not really been a lot going on with the Cowboys, and it just seems to be getting that little bit worse each year, and I think this might be the year where they hit rock bottom. I have the Cowboys in 16th. In 15th, the Newcastle Knights. They've made the top 8 the past 2 seasons. The loss of Mitchell Pearce, I think, is going to be bigger than some people think, especially because they've not replaced him with a true NRL experienced game-controlling half. We saw a lot of the players sort of dip in and out of form throughout last year, players who were usually consistent in seasons 2020 and beforehand. I just don't see Newcastle setting too much alight, I guess you could say, this season. A lot's going to rely on Kalen Ponga, who has proven a little injury prone in the past, and he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to perform this season. In 14th, I have the New Zealand Warriors, a team that's not made the final since 2018. Again, not a lot going for this club. Sean Johnson does return, but unfortunately, a bit like Kalen Ponga, has proven injury-prone in recent seasons. We don't know exactly who is going to partner him in the halves. Other than that, a decent-looking forward pack that's not always consistent. You could say the only real consistent competitor in that forward pack is Adam Fanua-Blake, who is going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I just don't see the Warriors doing too much this year, and there's not a whole lot of go-forward, I guess you could say, or too many positives or areas of improvement from last year. So I do have them in 14th. In 13th, I have the West Tigers finishing in the exact same position as last year. Some new faces coming in. It's going to be interesting to see their British experiment, if you will, bringing in Jackson Hastings and Oliver Gildart from Super League. But overall, I don't see too much changing for the Tigers. The players who are good will remain good. Your Luciano Leilua, who's off to the Cowboys next year. You've also got Adam Dewey, who's out injured at the moment, who was a shining light throughout 2021. So rounding out the bottom 4, I've got the West Tigers. In 12th, I have the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. A lot of people will have them in their top 8 because of their recruitment. But remember in 2021, at least before the season started, how the Bulldogs were a team who had immensely improved on paper and should improve on the field as well. That obviously did not happen. They won the dreaded wooden spoon. I think people sort of have to manage their expectations for the Bulldogs. You don't just jump straight from wooden spooners to the top 8, at least not for most teams. So I think we're going to see that gradual climb, and I think they'll get to a premiership contender eventually. It just won't be for a little while, and that is why I have them 12th in 2022. In 11th, I have the St. George Illawarra Dragons, a team that could do a bit better than I'm actually tipping them to do if the right players are selected. They have a great crop of young talent, but it seems Anthony Griffin goes for experience, and his old players that he coached at Brisbane over these young guys coming through. I would argue, other than the Panthers and the Broncos, the Dragons have the most exciting crop of young talent ready to take the NRL by storm now. Whether or not he unleashes them is another question, but I have them in 11th. In 10th, I have the Canberra Raiders. I like the signing of Jamal Fogarty. I think he will probably help Jack Whiten, but I feel like this might be the last year for Ricky Stewart at the Raiders. Not that he's a bad coach or anything, but sometimes a coach just outstays their welcome, or their time at a club does come to an end. I feel like we're reaching this point with Ricky Stewart at the Raiders. And rounding out the bottom 8, I've got my boys, the Gold Coast Titans. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Justin Holbrook. They are definitely building something nice there at the club. I just think this year They've improved a little less than other teams around them, and that's why I think they will just drop out of the top 8. I still think they could make the 8, but I've just got them in 9th. Time for the top 8 now, and yes, you've not heard this team be brought up yet, so I do tip them to make the top 8, and it goes a little bit against what I was saying for the Bulldogs, although I think there was already a bit more there to begin with, and the improvements they've made are going to be much more beneficial in the short term. It's the Brisbane Broncos who finish in 8th, and I've pretty much explained it there. I really like their recruitment, and they already had more pieces in place than the Bulldogs, so I feel like they could jump straight into the top 8. I'd say they just make it in at 8th. In 7th, the Parramatta Eels, who a lot of people are saying this is their final year in their premiership window. I'm actually of the opinion that their premiership window ended at the end of 2020. I still didn't really see them as genuine contenders in 2021. Had they beaten Penrith in that semi-final, even though they'd beaten Melbourne twice during the year, I couldn't see them winning that preliminary final against the Storm. They've got some players leaving at the end of 2022. I don't exactly know which way that will impact the club. But again, not too dissimilar to Ricky Stewart. I don't think Brad Arthur's a bad coach, but I feel like he's starting to get towards the end of his stay at the Parramatta Eels. He's only contracted until the end of next season, I believe. The club might part ways with him if they do indeed finish in 7th, like I am predicting. And again, other clubs around them have improved. They haven't necessarily. One of the things I've been speaking about throughout giving sort of little predictions for this season is that not many teams in the top 8 have actually improved. The Parramatta Eels are one of them. Now onto a side that most definitely has improved, and the team I'm tipping to finish 6th in 2022, the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, who missed their first final series since 2014 last year. They are looking to bounce back. I believe they are the team that's recruited the best because they have not only recruited high-quality players, but players in positions that they needed to improve in significantly. They have done that. I think it's enough to get them back into the top 8. Maybe 2023 we speak about them as potential premiership contenders, but for now they've done enough to get back into the top 8. For me, in 5th, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Tom Trbojevic was exposed in the semi-final series last year, and that'll set a blueprint for other clubs to try and contain Tommy Terrific. I still think he'll be Manly's best player, still one of the best players in the game, but just not quite have that same impact as he had in 2021. Manly will also need Daly Cherry-Evans to continue performing at a high level. I think we undervalue how important he ended up being to Manly in 2021. Manly's forward pack, very talented but quite inconsistent last season, especially when they needed to step up when Tom Trbojevic wasn't there. They didn't always do so. I need to see some improvement out of them before I can consider them contenders for the premiership once again. I've got them in 5th. Top 4 time, and to kick things off, we have the 2021 runners-up, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Despite putting him in the top 4, I do not believe this team is a genuine premiership contender. As I've said time and time again, there aren't that many teams who I think are an actual chance at winning the comp this year. Unfortunately, Souths fans, I don't think your team is one. The loss of Adam Reynolds is huge. Cody Walker, as good as he was in 2021, and he was arguably the best 5'8" in the game and one of the best players in the game, no doubt. He unfortunately now has to change up his play style a little bit to incorporate a bit more game control, which we haven't really seen from him before, which means a lot more pressure will be on his shoulders, limiting his ability with the ball in hand and his freedom, should I say. Therefore, I've got South Sydney still finishing in 4th. There are a lot of people who have them finishing even lower, but I think just because of the lack of competitiveness, I guess you could say, in the competition and the lack of strong teams, unfortunately, they will still finish in 4th place. In 3rd, I have the reigning minor premiers, the Melbourne Storm. A lot of people are saying they'll drop out of the top 4. Hell, some people say in the top 8 it's the same thing year after year. A lot of it's wishful thinking. They'll still be up there, sure. They have regressed, and I think maybe in 2023 we could see a drop out of the top 4 for Melbourne. However, not this season, again, partly because a lot of teams suck, but also because they are still the Melbourne Storm. It's still a really good squad, and I do think they are a chance at winning the premiership this year. Of course they are. They are the Storm. I've got them in 3rd. In 2nd, the reigning premiers, the Penrith Panthers, who haven't really regressed that much. They have lost the likes of Kurt Capel, Matt Burton, Paul Momirovski, for example. They are losing some talent, but they have a young crop coming through. I like Isaac Tago. getting a starting role in the NRL for one, and Penrith will still be thereabouts. They're still going to be a premiership contender in 2022. Last but definitely not least, the team who I think will win the minor premiership in 2022 and the team who I think will be premiers in 2022, the Sydney Roosters. I think this team has improved significantly, whereas pretty much every other team from the top 8 last year has regressed to an extent. I think the Roosters could still lose, and touch wood they don't, still lose half the players they did last year through injury again and still be my tip to win the comp depending on who they lose. That's how much depth this side has and how much talent they have. Also recruiting really well. Paul Momirovski, arguably now the best defensive centre in the NRL after the retirement of Josh Morris. They've replaced the former best defensive centre in the game with the new best defensive centre in the game. I really like that move. I like bringing back Kevin Agama, a bit of NRL experience for depth out on the edges as well. Of course, Brandon the Cheese Smith coming in 2023. I think it'd be very hard for this team to lose the comp, and I think they are going to do so in 2022. Well, sorry, I think I made it sound like I said I think they are going to lose the comp. Of course, what I mean is they are going to win the comp, and I think their only real challenges will be the Penrith Panthers and Melbourne Storm. But there you have it, my 2022 NRL ladder predictions. If you want a bit more of an in-depth reasoning as to why I've picked these teams to finish in certain places, I have linked the 2022 NRL season preview I did with the Footy and Frothies podcast below. Now, it does go for a couple of hours. However, we give an in-depth explanation for each and every team. We have a discussion back and forth while we agree and disagree with each other. So if you're looking for more of that discussion and more of an in-depth look at each team in particular, as I said, head to the description below, head to the link and give the Footy and Frothies podcast a listen. As I have done for the past 2 seasons, I will be joined by Daggy, who is our fearless leader, and Barney, our statistician supreme, to review and preview every game of the 2022 NRL season. We'd love to have you guys on board with us listening every Wednesday. But other than that, leave your comments below for who you are tipping to finish in what place in 2022. And other than that, like, subscribe, and share with your mates. I'll see you next time.